Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. Each week, we share practical spiritual insights designed to support your growth, helping you live with more clarity, compassion, and intention. Wherever you're listening from, we're glad you're here. Let's begin.
This month we've been talking about love, and the first week we talked about loving ourselves, and then we talked about loving our clan, whether it's our clan by choice or by birth. This is awkward, sorry. And today we're going to extend that out now and talk about loving our tribe. Our tribes, and I'm going to make that plural, right? I think we can be members of more than one tribe. Our tribes are people that we have an affinity with. They share things with us, and so we resonate with them, people that we feel are familiar, even if we don't know them all that well. This made me think about when I started ministerial school, the first thing that we had to do was go out to a convocation, and I think that was the name, something like that. Mine happened to be in Southern California, and all the people that were starting ministerial school and others that may have missed this occasion all came together. Some of our professors came, all the people that led all the branches of the school. And we got to doing this thing, and if you notice our symbol is a V and two bars that go across it. So we came up with this thing, we'd walk around, I found my peeps. I found my peeps, right? We did that to each other all the time. And so that was a tribe. I didn't know them all individually all that well, but we had a very strong combination of interests. It could also include things like your spiritual community, your coworkers or professional community, your people that you share values or passions or hobbies, life experiences, identities with. These are all people that could be in tribe. The folks that you find yourself saying, these are my people. Huh? That's your tribe. These days it seems to apply to a lot of things in politics as well. I'm going to try to steer mostly clear of that today. From a New Thought perspective, reaching out and widening the circles of people that we are in touch with is not just accidental. It's actually part of our spiritual growth. It's part of how we evolve. In our teaching, we teach that love is the greatest power in the world, right? That's the greatest power. But we don't often talk about the fact that our ability to love expands as our consciousness rises, right? As we evolve, our ability to even do this loving we talk so much about grows. Consider this. We don't start out our lives with this idea of universal love. When a baby is born, a baby really doesn't know there's anything around except itself and its needs. That's where we begin. Now, as we talked about last week, somehow or another, we manage in our lifetimes to occasionally go all the way from all there is in the world is me and my needs to, that's the front of the line and the only line, all the way to the back of the line. The last person who gets their needs met is me. So we talked a lot about how we shift that dynamic. Then we begin to grow, and we learn that we can love our families. We can love that clan that we talked about. But as we get further along our path, we become able to love beyond familiarity, beyond obligation, because some of our love babies are lovely, but they're a big obligation too, right? And beyond our comfort level. I mentioned Craig Hamilton in the write-up that went into the newsletter. Now, if you decide after me talking about him to look Craig Hamilton up, I want you to be very, very careful, because there's a man named Craig Hamilton Parker, and he is a very controversial psychic, and not at all who I'm talking about today. Okay, so Craig Hamilton, no dash Parker. Okay. Now, from his own website, I will give you a grand description of him. He is a pioneer in the emerging field of evolutionary spirituality, a leading voice in the movement for conscious evolution, and a guiding force behind integral enlightenment. And these are all things that I'm interested in. I actually started following him years and years ago when he was the first voice that I encountered that talked about the fact that we have to be in community to grow spiritually. So he was talking early on about our need to operate inside of a community. And since that time, I'm talking like 2011, 12, somewhere back in there. Now, since then, we have developed the technology to almost completely separate ourselves from ever being in community beyond pictures on a screen. And yet, during that same time, we have discovered how deeply important it is to all of our tribes, our educational tribes and everything else, to come into physical community in order to be happy individuals and grow. But I am going to focus mostly today on spiritual community. That's his purpose, and that's who we are here today. But everything I'm talking about today applies to all of our tribes. It applies to all these aspects that we are involved in. Hamilton teaches that spiritual awakening is not just about our personal enlightenment. It's not just about waking up. It's also about growing up until we can expand from it's all about me to it's all about us, to it's about all of us. In other words, he's saying that spiritual maturity includes who we include in our circle of love. Who we include. So we have to grow our ability to love, and we grow our ability to include more people in our love. Sorry, this is bugging me. This sounds easy, right? Loving people, that's easy. I'm all about loving people. So why would a tribe be a challenge? Well, there can be ego-based tribes and there can be soul-based tribes. Ego-based tribes, and we've got plenty of these going on. Now I can't hear me quite right. Ego-based tribes say, you belong if you think like me, if you agree with me, if you reinforce my identity. Now that's an ego-based tribe. A soul-based tribe says, you belong because you are part of the unfolding whole. You don't have to agree to stay connected. Our shared values are deeper than our surface differences. All right, so let's have a little story. I apologize for my difficulty with this machine. So let's have a spiritual setting. So a spiritual community has a choir, usually. We have some people that have wanted that for a long time. So let's have a little spiritual community has this wonderful choir. Now, they are not perfect singers. They're not professionals by any means, but they're joyful. And they love one another. They have found their people. And so, of course, because of all this joy and the beautiful music, the choir starts to grow. And people come into the choir, and some of them would like to do more contemporary music, and some would like to go back to doing more traditional music, and some of them want to go get the Science Mind hymnal that used to exist. Bet that surprises you. There was a hymnal, and they want to go get that and sing from that. So what happens? We begin to get some factions. Rehearsal starts feeling a little tense. But fortunately, they had a wise director. And one night he said, what if the spirit of this choir is our willingness to grow together? That reframed the issue. Simple question, what if we just define it differently than you seem to be defining it? So no longer is it tradition versus contemporary, old members versus new members, preferences, my preferences versus your preferences. We're so professional you can't even get in, whatever, whether it's a problem. It became, can we love each other enough to allow ourselves to grow and evolve together? And that was the turning point. Not because everyone got their way. That was not the solution, was that everybody somehow figured out how to get their way out of the tribe. The solution came because they began to see each other not as obstacles, but as participants in each other's growth. They became partners in growing something together. That is kind of a good example of tribal love and the evolutionary edge. Loving your tribe doesn't mean freezing it in time. It means finding a way to grow within it. Nope, can't read better without these either. So, That's a very New Thought idea. Science of Mind teaches there is one life, just one. It expresses through the many. So loving your tribe means learning to recognize that one life in other people, even if you're in disagreement, even if they're irritating you, you're recognizing there's only one life. It's in me, it's in you. It moves us from, I love you because you are like me, to I love you because we're part of the same evolving consciousness. So I just used the term evolutionary edge. What's an evolutionary edge? Well, that comes from Craig Hamilton, and he talks about this as the place where growth happens, which also happens to be the place where our comfort zone ends. Now, we've talked about comfort zones the last couple of weeks. If you weren't here, we all have comfort zones. They're not always comfortable, but there are comfort zones. And they have edges, and we have to push the edges. So the evolutionary edge is when we get up to the edge of the comfort zone, and that's where we grow. Guess where you run into a lot of evolutionary edges? In relationships. And this is not just strangers on the other side of the planet, right? We're not really in deep relationship there. We are, because we're all one, but we really get this as we branch out into our tribes. We test them very heavily in our clans, as we discussed. But we test them when we move out into our tribes. So loving your tribe means staying present instead of withdrawing, staying curious instead of being defensive, staying compassionate instead of being righteous. And that's spiritual work. All those things, those are spiritual things. Our shared spiritual space is also called the evolutionary field, the field where we play and do our spiritual development. And when the collective consciousness of a group comes together, like we're doing here, and we are here for a higher purpose, and we want to come from love, really interesting things start happening. The energy amplifies. How many of you walked into this room the first time and could feel it in the room before you even saw any of the people in the room, right? There's an energy in this room. There's an energy in this room that's been put in those walls and in this space for a long time. It lives here. Growth accelerates. And somehow or another, some people like to think of it as magic and some think of it as the working of the law. Insight starts flowing in through this group, apparently from some higher dimension. And as we know, actually from right here. Now that's living in the Christ consciousness. That is the field of awareness. This is how spirit multiplies itself through unity, right? What's that saying? Wherever two or more are gathered in my name, there am I. It works in community. Now that is not a metaphor. That's metaphysics. Where we come together, we amplify and grow beyond what we can do as individuals. When does a tribe stop being spiritual? How do we know if we're in a good spiritual tribe? Well, from a New Thought perspective, tribes are not automatically holy things. Strange, hello, for me to say in this environment, but we do not awaken spiritually suddenly in most cases. Buddha, we always think, he sat under the tree and became enlightened. Well, there was a lot of background work behind that, you know? It didn't all happen right there in that moment. And we too, we grow developmentally. We evolve over time. And that means a tribe can either support our evolution or stall our evolution. An unevolved tribe says, we are right. We see clearly. They don't get it yet. An evolving tribe says, we are learning. We are incomplete, and there's truth, more truth than any one of us alone can hold. So that tribe can feel loving and still be exclusionary. It can feel aligned while still being defended by ego. So we have to look at the dynamics in our tribe. New Thought finds it important for us to notice that difference. Because love is, if we're only extending love to everyone that's just like us already, that's just conditional belonging. That's not spiritual growth. So let's go back to that idea of waking up versus growing up. Growing up spiritually means we develop the capacity to stay connected without needing to be the same. We remain compassionate without collapsing into approval. We hold tension without turning into righteousness. That's not about lowering our standards. That's about raising consciousness, right? That's what we want to do. We have to raise the consciousness to where we want to be, not turn down other things. The tribe doesn't ask, do you think like me? It asks, can I recognize that same life looking out through your eyes and back into mine, even when we're different? The highest God and the innermost God is one God. Okay, our teaching in action. So the tribe becomes a bridge to loving humanity, ultimately, right? If we can love our tribe, then we can start branching out, and that's what we'll talk about some next week. How do we actually practice this? See your tribe as training ground. What is the capacity that life is developing in the tribe you're in? Why are you in there? Are you learning patience? Big lesson for most of us. Are you learning humility? Are you learning how to listen? Are you learning how to be courageous? Practice being generous in your interpretation. We've talked before about don't take everything personally. I admit I was very good at assuming that everybody was good and had good intentions, and it helped me a lot. I've seen it up here. I travel, and people are wonderful everywhere we go. I don't fall into conspiracy theories because I just assume everybody's got good intentions. Now, I have to admit that's getting tested some lately. I'm learning to parse a little between not being intentionally bad and how that differs from just don't think like me, right? You love without an agenda. Sometimes just kindness, and this all ties up. See, Random Kindness Week happened to hit here. All of this, sometimes kindness is all we need. Let's have another little church example. You know, we have potlucks here. So let's say we've got a couple of people who know that they have differing opinions on things. One's feeling very progressive, one's feeling kind of a traditionalist. And so they're kind of tense. They're polite to each other, they're never mean. But one day we were at the potluck and the spoons are running short and they both reach for the same spoon at the same time and their hands touch. And they both laugh. And one says, you know, I think we care about the same thing. We just express it differently. And that starts a softening. And later, one comes back and says, you know, I realized I didn't want to be right more than I want to be connected. Because that was an evolutionary moment, things changed. In that relationship and throughout the tribe, probably, because everybody probably recognized that tension that used to be there. Spiritual growth asks us to move from ego identity into the evolutionary identity of not defending who we are because we're too busy becoming who we are. The potluck table story, nothing changed. Their doctrines didn't change. Nobody changed their attitudes or their values or anything else. They just decided that they loved each other enough and had enough common ground to allow themselves to be different. And that is how tribes evolve. Not through agreement, but through softening, through including, through honoring differences. Most tribal healing doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in small, ordinary moments that someone decides connection matters more than being right. Yeah, this always reminds me of the pearl and the oyster, right? The pearl has to have that little piece, the oyster needs the little piece of grit. And it's trying to smooth the grit out so that it's not an irritant anymore, makes the pearl. And that's part of how it works for us. Sometimes it's your differences that are allowing me to grow. If we were all identical already, there would be no growth, no reason to, no discussion. We would just automatically be in lockstep all the time, and there's nothing to be gained there. On the other hand, your tribe is not your final destination. We are working toward getting out into the world. So let me just wrap this up because we have some more parts to do. Whether It's that choir learning to sing together because style is not as important as their connectivity and their willingness to grow. Two women at the potluck table deciding that that connection matters more than being right. The invitation is the same. Loving your tribe is not about preserving sameness. It is about protecting the connection while our consciousness evolves. It is about recognizing, as Ernest Holmes told us, that we are bound together in one infinite and perfect whole. Bound together means we don't grow alone. Bound together means that your difference matters to me and my development. It means that every small softening, every moment we choose to understand over ego, include over certainty, love over comfort, every moment of that is our own spiritual evolution. And when the love at the edge of our preferences, when we stay at the table and keep singing, even as the music changes, we become participants in something much larger than community, right? We start unfolding. So I'm going to invite the band to head back up this way, and we are all going to work together, and we are going to do a walking, singing meditation. I am sure that walked you right out to your evolutionary edge, didn't it? Okay. Now, this is a very, very simple song we're going to sing. The words are going to be up there. And I want to tell you the easiest way to love, I know Manny, Manny loves it. I think I heard it from yours. The easiest way for you to remember this is by pointing until you get it down. I love myself so much that I can love you so much, that you can love you so much, that you can start loving me, right? We love ourselves so much, so we can love the world so much, so all can love themselves so much, that love is all we need to be. All right.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. If this episode supported you in any way, we invite you to stay connected. Listen again, share it with someone you care about, or simply carry what resonated with you into your week. Until next time, take good care and keep growing in spirit.